my goodness, you guys. BoJack Horseman is an animated show about animals and some humans.
BoJack Horseman is a sequel to a fictional show.
BoJack Horseman is a look into the existential dread of a career that lasts way too long.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Falling Towers Watch the First podcast in which we watch first episode of a series so that you don't have to.
But you still can.
As you may have guessed, today we're doing a review of BoJack Horseman on Netflix. Episode 1 is called BoJack Horseman, the BoJack Horseman Story, Chapter 1. So everybody, if you'd like us to review a show, in the comments below, type WTF in the show you'd like us to review. Like for this one, you would have typed in WTF, BoJack Horseman, and you would also said on Netflix, so we know where to find it. That's the important part, on Netflix. This coming month, we are doing superhero shows, so suggest all of your superhero shows, but make sure we haven't already done it, and tell us where we can get it. All right, be sure to subscribe to this frickin' channel. Please make sure you click like right away before you decide whether you actually like it or not. And please make sure you hit the share button and send it around and tell all your buddies. Look, everybody, we have a very special guest today. He's a musician. He's a VFX guy. You'd never guess it. It's Andre, Sci-Fi Guy Cotman.
Good to be here, everybody.
He's also done
a host on the Shuttlepod show. Or sorry, not Shuttlepod. What am I saying? The Star Trek and Chill.
Yes.
The other one.
Slightly obsessed with Star Trek on this end.
He's also played saxophone on the Tim Russ Band, everybody, because he's that damn good. And if you say, play Careless Whisper, he does.
I'll do it.
Wow.
I'll do it. Yep.
Look, everybody. Dr. Mohammed Noor is here with his Battlestar Galactica shirt.
I'm never gonna dance again. No, sorry. Good to see you all.
Legend.
He's an occasional science advisor for Star Trek, as well as the vice provost for academic affairs at Duke University. My name is Ryan T. Husk. I'm none of those things.
But you're awesome.
You are awesome.
What a deal. Thanks.
Fun
all right.
Parties too.
So let's get into this thing. I really want to talk about this show, but I don't know what we're supposed to talk about, Mohammed.
Wow, so we're in a predicament. This is where we each predict what each other thought of the show after seeing it. Specifically this pilot episode, not the whole series.
What a relief. This is actually my favorite portion of the show, so I'm glad we're starting here. So
my third favorite.
Mohammed and I have known each other for a few years. We know each other pretty well. Andre and I have known each other, feels like maybe around 10 years or so.
It's been a minute.
Close to it, maybe 8 to 10 years. We know each other pretty darn well. Mohammed and Andre know each other very little, but they've seen each other. So we're all going to predict.
Yeah.
We're going to predict what the other person thought of this show or whether they liked it or not. Mohammed, would you like to start? Oh, no, wait, I'll start. That's right. I forgot the order of things. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Mohammed, I predict that you liked this show, but that you'd never seen it before, but that you thought it was pretty okay overall. Andre, I have a very strong hunch that you liked this show very much for reasons we can get into a little bit later. But those are my predictions. What do you think, Mohammed? Did I like it? Andre?
So I think Andre loved it. That's a pretty safe guess, as we'll elaborate later. Ryan, you're a tough one on this one.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I think Ryan liked it. I think he might like it.
I think Ryan's going to be pretty lukewarm. I think positive, but lukewarm positive. That's what I'm guessing. That's what I'm going to guess for Ryan.
That's a complex mind, that one, and a funny mind. I think this might have resonated.
How about you, Andre? What do you think about me and Ryan both? Well, you kind of said Ryan.
I think that you, I think you might need to see a little bit more before you make a final decision, but we'll see.
Ooh. So he thinks we're fence sitters, it sounds like.
Fence sitters, yeah. I mean, we'll have to give a score at the end of this episode, so.
I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
But
I can
that
lead
may
the
be
way
a
for both of
5
you.
then. Yeah.
No, that's true. It's true.
Well, everybody at home, you've gotten a few subtle hints.
Yeah.
Let us know in the live chat or in the comments below whether Ryan liked it, Muhammad liked it, Andre liked it. Take your best guess. What do you think? Stereotype us. Be like, Ryan looks like a dummy. I bet he liked it, or something like that. Make your best guesses while you're typing away. Take your time, no pressure, no rush. While you're doing that, Dr. Muhammad Noor here going to let us know what this show is even about.
I will indeed. So
I want to see who
BoJack
the astute
Horseman.
ones.
BoJack Horseman was a TV star back in the 1980s, but hasn't really had a major gig since then, and spends a lot of his time feeling sorry for himself and rewatching his old show. Penguin Books, amusingly run by penguins, is keen to have his autobiography, but BoJack can't seem to get himself together to do it. He gets paired with a ghostwriter who he finally meets at a party. When she gets him to maybe feel like he can do this project with her, BoJack learns that her boyfriend is his nemesis, Mr. Peanut Butter, a dog who had a very similar TV show around the same time and yet seems happy. Vomit ensues.
All right. Very nice. Vomit did ensue. All right. So everybody, hopefully you've finished typing what you thought we enjoyed or didn't enjoy about this show and our overall feeling. Where do we go now, Muhammad?
This is my favorite part of the show. This is called Expectation, where we spend a little bit of time on what we expected from the show before having watched it, and then we reveal everything with the Getchin, what we actually got with this show. Please be violent.
You guys, full disclosure, I texted Andre a really funny meme. That's why he was trying really hard to keep it together just now, because it's funny. That's terrible. Anyway, so, all right. So let's compare and contrast what we expected versus what we got. This first part, we're just going to say what we expected before having watched this show. Dr. Noor, what did you expect before watching this first episode, if anything?
Very little. I don't even remember if I'd even heard of the show. I did mention to my son that we were going to do this. He's like, "Oh, that show sucks." I was like, he was very negative about it. And he compared it to, I forget, like Family Guy or no, not Family Guy. I forget. He compared it to some other shows. He's like, yeah, it's just. Oh, actually, one of them was Bob's Burgers, which actually I kind of liked, but he did not like that, and he's like, "Nah, it's terrible." So I went in a little bit like, "Oh, what are we getting ourselves into now?"
Everybody that's now saying, yeah, you should do Bob's Burgers. Well, we did actually do Bob's Burgers. You want to know what episode it was? It was the gross episode number 144. So for those of you, gross is 144. So WTF 144 is our review of Bob's Burgers with actor, producer, writer Desmond Heck.
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time. So, Andre, before you watched this first episode, what did you expect, if anything?
I was like, okay, it's a show about a bunch of talking animals. I don't know what to expect about that, but then they're all in LA. So it could go like one of two ways. It can go like really funny, or it can go, I don't really know what they're talking about because I don't live in LA if you don't live there. So I kind of went into it like, I don't know, this better be good. Like, give me something so that's my first impression when I first saw it.
Mm-hmm. So I'll tell y'all what I expected here. I actually remember when this came out because I put on Netflix. I was very pleased that we now had Netflix to watch Star Trek and stuff back, whatever it was, 2016 or 17 or something like that, right? And Netflix, every time you turned on Netflix, it kept saying like, watch BoJack Horseman, watch, you know how like every month or two they have like a new thing that they're like, you better watch it or we're just going to harass you every single day. Like they're super aggressive with it. So finally one day, you know, people know that sometimes I have like the toothbrushing show, you know, the show that you just kind of put on at the end of night when you're brushing your teeth or you're putting stuff away or you're folding laundry, or you just kind of put on. So one day I'm just like, fine, I'll put it on. And I wasn't sure if I'd watched it all the way through. and I think I was pretty mediocre or lukewarm on it. And then when I went to watch it this time, it was confirmed that I had seen the whole thing because Netflix keeps receipts. So when I went to BoJack Horseman, it showed the line all the way through. So I'm like, okay, I did watch the whole episode. We do know that. So what I expected was that it was going to be pretty okay. I have heard some people, not to name names just yet, that have said that it's a very good show, but some people really seem to like it. So I thought, maybe it will be. Maybe it'll resonate with me, as Andre said. But that's what we expected before watching this thing. Dr. Noor, what did you actually get?
Got the clipboard out.
There you go.
Mixed. I'd say a mixed bag for me. So let me tell you the things I liked, and I'll tell you the things I didn't like. So definitely there were a lot of funny bits in there. I mean, there were multiple places where I wrote. So I write the word "ha" next to specific lines when I think something was kind of funny. There were several of those, and some of them were actual dialogue. Sometimes there's just something in the background. Like I love the Lululemon store. I thought that was very funny. But there are some stuff like that. There were some good one-liners. I loved, of course, hearing Patton Oswalt, my old friend. Seeing him on there. I was like, yes, Patton Oswalt's on the show too. So that was exciting.
What line did he do, or what role?
He was the Penguin.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like I thought the twist at the end was really good, where like, oh, this person's dating Mr. Peanut Butter. That I didn't see that coming at all. So that to me was like, oh, okay, I feel surprised, which I always love in a show when I'm a little bit surprised. Those were the things I liked. The things that were less desirable. I'm just referring to this particular episode. I mean, I do feel like the show has potential going forward. This particular episode, I honestly didn't really like any of the characters. I didn't. Which, I mean, sometimes you can not like Succession. You can sometimes not like them and it's still good. Yeah. Sometimes you can not like them and it's really good. This, I didn't like them and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel interesting in that sense. Especially BoJack. I really didn't like BoJack. Although there were some lines I thought were really funny, there was a lot of humor I found kind of meh. There was a lot of vomit. I'm like, okay. I feel like it's a little bit too low hanging fruit. There was a lot of plot that felt kind of tangential to the story. There were a lot of things kind of happening that didn't feel like, I mean, maybe in the longer term they will, but a lot of things were just kind of happening that like, okay, why did we see that? It didn't seem to be adding to the build. Maybe it's just partly character development and opportunity for character development. The last thing which actually got me, this is interesting because this is a little bit of kind of the opposite of what Andre was saying. Because it's true, like I'm not from Los Angeles. I can't, LA things don't really get me. This one hurt because I know some people who were in TV shows in the past and have not been able to get gigs since then. So seeing that, it just, to me, I found it like depressing. I was like, oh, like I don't want to watch a show about this. Like I think of the people who I know who've been in that boat, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who've been in that boat, and that to me pulled it down a lot because I just felt bad for the people I know who've been in that position. So that's it for me. But again, maybe the rest of the show will have a very uplifting thing and make it feel better as opposed to just like, oh man, sucks to be BoJack.
Muhammad always gets depressed when watching cartoons. Andre,
unless it's We Bare Bears.
Yeah, We Bare Bears. So Andre, now it's your time to let everybody know overall, what did you actually get?
It's interesting because like the part about BoJack like being kind of at the end of his career and living the glory days was actually something that appealed to me because I know that it happens. And so it's like, how do you deal with that? And what is it like from his perspective dealing with that? I think like some of the characters too in the beginning I didn't get, like what's the purpose of Diane? And then Todd is like a complete kind of a loser, but it was like, okay, what are they going to do with them? And then so that's initially what I thought, but I did like that the fact that like, okay, so what's going to be the perspective from him? And then having come from LA or not actually lived there for 9 years, moving back, I saw many of the LA things up front, like the Javons, like it's a big joke about Vaughn and Johns. It's just really small things. I was like, okay, I see that. That's interesting. And there's little bits of dark humor kind of sprinkled in. And sometimes I think that's good if it's done right. So I was just like, okay, not sure what some of these characters are for, but I see things that would make me watch more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll tell y'all what I actually got. Honestly, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It's a little bit better than I remember, but then I was like, did I like it the first time I watched it, but then just I couldn't be bothered to keep going. Because I know I wasn't interested in watching the show when I first watched it back in the day. I just put it on because they've forced me to, basically. But overall, yeah, I liked it. I laughed. I thought I can understand why people like this show and why I think it's done like 6 seasons or something like that. And so pretty good show overall. Again, I laughed. There was an interesting story developing there, and you can actually, it's not just a bunch of gags. It's not necessarily like a Family Guy where it's just a funny show. Like you can see there's going to be some character arcs and some story arcs that progress beyond each episode. So let's just get into it, because overall I did like it. And Muhammad overall said it made him depressed, and Andre seems to love this show.
I feel like Andre has more to say.
Oh my goodness, you guys.
I love this show. I cannot say enough good things about this show.
Can you repeat what you just said? I think you cut out just a little bit. Can you repeat what you just said?
Oh yeah, I can't say enough good things about this show. I mean, like, it's clear up front for me that BoJack Horseman is kind of a dirtbag, and the way that he interplays with people, it's funny. It's really, really funny. Like, you're starting to see like a glimpse of his motivations, even with Princess Carolyn in episode 1, and Todd being kind of a loser. It kind of plays well off of BoJack too. And then Mr. Peanut Butter, like, I don't like him but I like that I don't like him. Like, these people are all kind of messed up, and it's funny. And I think that's kind of what drew me into the episode, to want to see more. And like, Diane's kind of like, all right, I want to tell this story, but like, they're all like really kind of messed up and flawed, and where I'm like, okay, this could be interesting. So no, it was hard for me to hide it, but I love this show.
Awesome.
Mr. Peanut Butter, I wonder if that's a dirty joke. A dog named Mr. Peanut Butter. And if any of you know some of the sick things that used to go on, or people you used to joke about, or maybe it still goes, Andre knows about dogs and peanut butter and lonely people, but I don't know. So I wonder if maybe that's I don't know. Why is he called Mr. Peanut Butter? I guess because he's peanut butter colored, maybe ish.
Absolutely no clue.
But I feel like
he's happy-go-lucky.
I feel like BoJack Horseman is more peanut butter colored.
Depends on your peanut butter.
Anyway,
Mr. Peanut Butter is a shady tree. He is a shady tree. Even in the beginning stuff, he's very attention seeking. Even in the first episode, like, it's where he inserts himself. Even in episode 1, I'm like, where did you pop up from? And his name is Happy Go Lucky, and it plays off great for me.
He definitely seems like the kind of guy that inserts himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Andre, you said that okay, first of all, the reason we knew that Andre probably liked the show is because he was beaming about it. And Andre, I felt like when we asked you this, it sounded familiar. I'm like, isn't Andre one of the people that have told me that he loves BoJack Horseman? Like, I'm pretty sure in the past you had mentioned you got to see BoJack Horseman because it's this hilarious reflection of LA life. So people in LA, you know how it is, like, doctors love shows that make fun of being a doctor, teachers love shows that make fun of being a teacher. So, LA types love shows that make fun of, LA types. Writers love shows where the main character is a writer. Oh, how clever.
So, The Chair, excellent show for professors. That show is epic.
What's it called?
Nice.
The Chair. It's about a department chair at a university.
So if we ever review that one,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if we ever review that one, I know how I'm gonna predict Muhammad.
Yeah, safe bet.
What were you saying, Andre?
I'm gonna recommend that to one of my best friends who's a professor. It's good when you see a piece of what you do in the show. And for this, anybody in industry in any part of it, or even personalities that flock around industry, this nails everybody. Everybody, like, no one is safe. All the LA types, all the fans, all the press that goes with it, like, it nails everyone to the wall. In a funny way.
Here's a fun one. Dr. Muhammad Noor Who's your favorite character?
I mean,
Who makes you frown?
I'm trying not to pick the Penguin just because I like the actor. Because I mean, Penguin itself wasn't that exciting, but I mean, I'm trying not to do that. I guess if I had to pick, I might pick the publisher, Diane. I mean, just by virtue of the fact she seemed like the least repulsive, at least so far. We'll see what happens as this builds for. She seemed like a reasonably sympathetic character. But yeah, definitely not Todd. Definitely not Mr. Peanut Butter. Definitely not Princess Carolyn. Definitely not BoJack.
So by virtue of default,
yeah,
that's it.
What
about you, Andre? Do you have a favorite character?
There's a bunch of characters that pop up, but right now I think BoJack is probably my favorite because just of how he is and his interactions with people, and unpacking him is a journey in this show, truly a journey. And it's not somebody that you're always going to like, and I love that.
What are you, Ryan?
Well, I was thinking about it while you guys were talking. Kind of buys me a little bit of time. Toddles is definitely not my favorite character. He's got to be at the bottom. Todd.
Ah,
he's definitely got to be at the bottom of the list for me because I'm like, this guy's so, and I'm like, is he even likable at all? I don't know. He probably becomes likable further down the line on the show, because a lot of times a show will introduce a character in the first episode or a couple that really aren't likable, and then they iron it out as the season progresses into an unlikable character that you actually like, kind of thing. So
Ducat effect.
Yeah. So maybe I thought the cat was funny because she kind of had the split personality, and because she says like, oh, as your whatever, as your girlfriend, you're fat and ugly and whatever. And, as your publicist, no, you're great. And then she pops up and he's like, what are you doing here? She's like, you never took me home. And then in the next scene, she's like, yeah, I'm cooking you breakfast. We had sex last night. So she's just like this. She's like a wild card. So I think maybe she was, not necessarily like the funniest lines, but like the funniest moments, like the funniest twists. And I thought Diane was cool just because, she was relatively interesting and likable. However, maybe my biggest laugh, speaking of that one moment, was when Kat says, what's her name? Kat something. I don't remember. The pink cat. What's her name?
Yeah. Princess Carolyn.
Princess Carolyn.
Yeah. Princess. So she says, you look like a pile of crap that ate another pile of crap and then crapped out a third pile of crap. And BoJack
I wrote down that line.
BoJack says, whoa, wait a minute. Which one am I? Which pile of crap am I? And she goes, the third one. He's like, what? That's the worst one. And obviously that's very funny because, all piles of crap are presumably bad, but he actually only took offense when he found out he was the worst of the 3 piles of crap. So there's a lot of that kind of humor. And I feel like that's the kind of humor that's going to carry this show in the future.
There's a lot of dark humor too that was inserted. Like there was a moment in the diner where a cow was serving someone a hamburger, so it's just like, they throw in small things that just are like, what? and it's funny. I love detail, and I love seeing, like, I don't know, savant level crazy things, but it's stuff like that to me that just adds to the show.
I think the overall funniest stuff, just in general, was BoJack's love for his show. The fact that he was always watching his show, and he's like, oh, what's her name grew up before our eyes. Hey, Todd, did what's her name grow up before our eyes? What? Did what's her name grow up before our eyes? Yeah, she grew up before our eyes, or something like that, and then when on the last episode, he's like, wow, we went kind of dark in that last one.
That was the one place I laughed out loud, was the, like, when you didn't love him enough and he died. We may have gone too dark in that one. And now on to Child Protective Services. Like, oh my gosh. That was the best for me. I thought that was hilarious. I did like the intro music. I have to say, just the sequencing with that, and it reminded me a little bit of like The Simpsons walking around town sort of thing.
What about
And
always
I
a
like that
Clydesdale, never a Clyde? Like you'll get it later.
they caught
What?
that.
What'd you
That was
say,
shade
Andre?
from Mr. Peanut Butter. That was
Yeah.
complete shade. Yeah. Little things. Like it was so friendly and shade filled. Yeah.
Or I improvised that line. I mean, it was written, but I gave it the BoJack spin.
Yeah. That's not improvising. Yeah, it was definitely from. Go ahead, Andre.
Oh, sorry. And there's more going on with Todd too. Like the whole scene where he flashes back and he's tied up literally with a cartel, and then like he manipulates BoJack to throw that party, just to make sure that the guy gets the quinceañera. You know, and BoJack's looking at him like, "Is this the quinceañera?" And he's like, "That's offensive." You know, like.
Then there's the sign saying, "Christina, it's your quinceañera."
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Right. So I'm like, there's more going. Still waters run deep, and I got that, and it kind of redeemed Todd for me a little bit. Like it made me want to know more, you know. And initially, he was the most uninteresting character for me, but I'm like, okay, there's stories to tell here, and all these people are kind of manipulating, kind of saying jabs. Nobody's perfect. This can get crazy.
Did you guys notice the Wilhelm scream?
Yes.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
The Wilhelm scream is a famously used scream that was made in whatever it was, the 50s or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's been used in so many, like Star Wars. I've even heard it in Star Trek once before, Indiana Jones, like just all kinds of things. Andre's saying Avatar as well. I mean, you'll always hear it, and it sounds like, ah! Like,
yeah.
Once you hear it and you recognize it, you hear it in almost every show. Sneaks it in. So we heard it when the guy was falling out from out the window or that tall building. A ton of movies. The parrots said dirty jokes. What?
the paparazzi. Yeah, outside the window. I mean, the way they use the animals in this, like flying around, they are very smart about how they anthropomorphize characters. And to me, it adds to the comedy of it, like having the paparazzi spy on him by like literally being on a tree. It's just funny the way they adapt the animals. And then I think BoJack makes a crack about like, I'm 1,200 pounds. Like, it's just he's an actual horse. It's funny,
Yeah, even though he looks the same size as Todd. So it's all these kind of like wink and nod meta jokes. He's like, I'm 1,200 pounds, but you're like, you look like you're 180.
Right, exactly.
And he's talking about
who's the same size too.
Right, he's talking about how fat he is, but it's like, you look pretty normal. I mean, okay, there's a little thing, but that's allowed. I do like the animals that they chose. Like, I feel like they're like, okay, we need a character like this. Okay, what, for example, the frogs in the mariachi band, right? I don't know why that worked for me, but it did. They got a mariachi band. Okay, frogs with a big old mouth, singing, la, da, 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 like, it's just, I wonder how they pick these things. Obviously, penguin, we know how they pick that one, but or whether how they pick who's going to be an animal and who's going to be a human.
Right. And with Mr. Peanut Butter being a golden retriever, what are golden retrievers known for? They're usually very happy-go-lucky, kind of dopey dogs, just pretty. And like he plays that part and then he'll throw his jabs in or do something to set up a situation that's in his favor. So it's very disarming. And that's why I think it's perfect that he's a golden retriever.
That makes sense for Princess Pinky too. Just a little uptight cat.
Yeah, because
absolutely.
Pink cats are known to be. Wait. We also had the pig doctor. That was fun. He's like, "Oh, you had an anxiety attack, and then you need to take it easy." He's like, "I do take it. You need to take it even easier." And then he passes out again from whatever the question was, but I don't even remember what it was. But did you guys have a favorite moment? Like an all-time top-notch, gotta watch it 3 times favorite moment?
I think it was the finale, him rewatching the finale. That for me was the best. I mean, that was the one place where I actually laughed out loud.
Yeah, I'd have to say the finale was definitely the funniest part for me because they're just so mean to each other, and especially like I don't like the vomiting joke, but I got it. Like I got
Oh
it. You know what I
no,
mean?
that's not. Sorry, that's not what I meant by the finale. I meant the finale of his horsing around show when he was talking about how they
Oh,
went too dark on that. Not the end of the episode. Sorry.
got it. Okay, okay,
I
got it.
liked the vomiting. It was funny because it was just so much and aggressive and a lot,
Cotton candy.
you know, and the sound. Uh,
I think he purposely puked on someone too in the middle of it. Cotton candy, like whenever it was something he didn't like, it was just like it just happened. You know, he's a shady tree. Like all of it, I loved it, loved it.
Also, we got introduced very quickly to what kind of show we're doing here when he had that 1.5 minute interview. And, he's like, disabled. Okay. Oh, I handicap. Can I say disabled? And he says, I'm incredibly drunk. I think I'm nailing this interview before the interview really even starts. It's like,
Also,
is it okay?
Comments.
Yeah. When he said a kick in the urethra, because in real life, and he goes, did I already say the part about the urethra? As if that was like a point that he planned ahead. He needed to make. Okay, I'll mention the urethra. That's smart humor. That's very funny. And so I was like, okay, that works. That kind of humor. It doesn't even have to be urethra. It could be anything. But the point that, just that type of joke, I think works. Nay way, Jose.
And he got a thrill out of that line and his lines in it, multiple thrills. So you see where he lives. And then, like you said in the beginning, the interview he was doing was just going off the rails, and watching a train wreck with the interviewer watching a train wreck was like, oh man, he's a mess. And it set me up for this is going to be interesting.
Sabrina. That's what the kid's name was. Did Sabrina grow up before our eyes? Yes. Well, Mohammed, I know you can't wait for this part, so just tell us, what was your least favorite part of the show?
I mean, again, I didn't love it. I mean, least favorite part. I mean, I didn't love the cold open there with the urethra stuff. I remember I was very skeptical after the pre music intro. I was like, oh, I don't know what we're getting ourselves into with this. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but like, I mean, there was nothing in it that was like terrible. But it's not. I don't know. I think it's just not the kind of humor I get. I think maybe that's the issue for me.
Right, but urethra humor is very funny. Andre, were there any parts you didn't like, or were you like, this is cool all the way through?
I would have to say no. I liked it. I didn't really have any parts that I didn't like. I think yeah.
Yeah, I think for me the only part I maybe didn't like was just Todd. I was just kind of like, this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I just didn't see any. The only thing I need for a redeeming quality is for him to be funny. And if he didn't really actually say anything funny other than provide Bojack with somebody to bounce things off that Bojack would say a funny line to. But so far in this first episode, yeah, Todd didn't say anything funny, didn't do anything for me. But, well, we've talked quite about, oh, look at Muhammad's putting down his notes. He's like, all right. Hey. Here we go.
Now we're getting to something much more interesting.
Which is what exactly?
Now is when we talk to Andre about him.
That's some good subject matter there. Well, Andre Kotman, we teased earlier, you're a musician, you do visual effects and stuff. Before we get into the VFX, can you tell everybody, hang on a second, you played in the Tim Russ band? How'd that happen?
I went to a Star Trek premiere, and years ago, you invited me to. You were one of my first friends in Los Angeles, and I met Tim Russ. Yes, yeah, man, I appreciate you. And
that was a good time.
And
it was a good time.
That was fun. Yep, I think it was a Renegades premiere, and I was so excited to see it. And I went up to Tim Russ, and I saw that he played music. So I was a new saxophonist in town, and I was like, "Hey, man! Like, not only have I loved you on Star Trek, but if you ever want a sax guy, let me know." And I gave him my card, didn't think anything about it. And I was like, yeah, he might call. He called me.
Wow.
And like, yeah. And I was like, in my like fanboy head, I'm screaming, but I was like, yeah, look, I'm going to bring my sax out. He listened to me. He loved it, and he's had me sitting in for years now. And he's just good people, and he's a great musician. We've done multiple Hollywood stages together. It was really a highlight in my career journey for
Do you
sax
remember
jamming
that
with him.
first call? Did you know it was him initially, or did you pick up kind of like, hello? And he goes, hey, man, it's Tim. And you're like, Tim? And he goes, Tim Russ. And you're like, hang on, what the fuck?
That
what's
is
up,
exactly what happened. Right. He called me and I was just like, oh my, Tupac, wow. And like, I took all of me to suppress that and be like, hey, Mr. Russ, how are you doing? It's good to talk to you. And my fanboy is screaming inside. But he's a sick singer and a wonderful guitar player and just has such a soul for blues. It was an honor to really get up on stage with him and all his musicians.
How long after you gave him the card did you get the call?
Days.
Okay.
Days. He must have listened to my samples and he was like, I want to get this guy in. So I was like, thank you. It's an honor to be in. Not too long after. And the rest is history. And then next thing you know, we're at music jams or at Ryan's house and everybody's just a big family and it's just been a good journey.
That's pretty awesome though, man. You could take that to the grave right there. I just, gave Tuvok my card. He called me. He wanted me to play in his band. So I did. No big deal. It's a lot of fun.
I did. Yeah.
So tell us about your VFX. You create some pretty amazing ships and your affinity for Star Trek. Was Star Trek the first thing that made you want to like design ships? You're also a big fan of The Expanse. I know that. And a bunch of other sci-fi. What was your first, did you try to design the Battlestar? What was your first thing?
It's I've been a Star Trek fan all my life. And when I was 4 years old, my dad used to watch Star Trek, the old Star Trek repeatedly. And it sunk in through osmosis. And then when I was 7 or 8, I saw The Next Generation and it hooked me. And I used to literally draw this ship on a piece of paper years ago when I was a kid. And then I was like, and I used to play with Legos. And then I started 3D art. And this was one of the first ships that I built over years. So my love of Star Trek and just space stuff in general, and then just kind of learning how to do the craft with literally this model was one of the things that got me into 3D modeling. And I've just been able to do a couple of other things since then, make more ships, make different sets. And now I'm working on a sci-fi series that I cannot wait to share with the world. And Ryan, I showed you a little glimpse of it, what's coming. And I'm so excited to just share my love of science fiction through a show.
And here's a preview of all of those designs. Just kidding. He told me not
to. How do you come up with a whole new ship design? Like, what's your process like?
It starts with designs I've always loved as a kid, kind of manifesting those, and then kind of adapting those to be in shapes that I like. So these are kind of very flowing, very organic. Me personally, I tend to draw inspiration from sea creatures and just natural shapes. Yeah. So like a lot of my, sometimes it'd be like, oh, that looks like a, like a
squid.
There's a ship that's shaped like a sea thing that people say, oh yeah, but I like, so I'll just come up with a design, draw it out, and then just make it. And then it turns into a full-fledged design at some point.
I can't wait for the pufferfish design.
Is that was aerodynamic, or would you do like a giant pyramid that just flies around?
Challenge accepted. I tend to, some designers are a little bit different in their aesthetic. Like Sean Tarango, one of my friends, he has his own aesthetic, and I've kind of developed mine as I've gone on. And Ryan, you are going to give me a challenge, and I'm going to do it. I could turn that into a bad cargo ship.
Yeah.
I have to do it. Yeah. But I try to take a little bit of my influence just from things that kind of inspire me and some things, and eventually just sketch it and then actually make it.
One more thing on the pufferfish, because for some reason now I'm obsessed with it. When it's not puffed, it looks even cooler. Everybody knows. You can turn that looks like a Xindi warship or something like that. Anyway,
it does look really cool.
Didn't mean to change the subject too much there. Have you done Battlestar Galactica ships? You seem like a Battlestar. I know you're an Expanse big time fan.
I haven't. I do like the show. One of the shows that I absolutely love, I don't know if you guys have reviewed it yet, is Foundation. on Apple TV.
No.
Absolute sensational science fiction. Lee Pace is in that with a bunch of different actors too that are all top notch. They have lots of new spaceships in it, and the plot
Lee
spans over
Pace.
hundreds of years.
Wasn't he Celeborn in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, he was. Yep, he was also a villain in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I forget the name of it. But in Foundation, he plays this man who rules over hundreds of years by continually cloning himself. And at any point in his time, he has 3 of him alive, like a young version, Lee Pace, the day, and then Dawn, Day, and Dusk, Dusk, the older person. So like the dynamic that he brings to that story and that story has is great science fiction. So yeah, Star Trek, Star Wars, The Expanse, Foundation, Dark Matter, also a lot of good shows. Oh, so good.
One final thing to add to Foundation, our good buddy War Dogheim out in Montana has also suggested that show. So maybe that's a good one for our upcoming sci-fi month. So that's a good one there. We haven't forgotten you, War Dogheim. We know that you have suggested Foundation, and you and Andre must love the show.
We did just recently give him Johnny Quest.
That's true. We can't give him too much too fast. He's going to think we love him, which we do. Well, look, Andre, where can people find you online and your stuff? Do you have a website?
I do. artstation.com/sci-fi Dre. I have samples of my artwork there. You can also find me on Twitter at Saxmandre, SAXMANDRE. Yep.
Love it.
Awesome. All right, that's it. Look at Muhammad. He's like predicts the future like 3 seconds ahead. Like he's one of those people that's like, I know what's going to happen in 2 to 4 seconds.
Yep.
It is time for everybody. The bottom line.
Bottom line, yes, you said it right.
He's got his karate chop ready. It is the bottom line. And what it is, truthfully, is the terrible twos. The final 2 questions of the show. The terrible twos.
Bottom line.
What do you think's better, Andre, for the final 2 questions of the show? The terrible twos or the bottom line?
I want to hear the bottom line.
Yes. You're the man.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So question number 1 is, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is where it gets tough. On a scale of 1 to 10, Dr. Muhammad Noor, what would you give this first episode of BoJack Horseman? I don't know why I said it like that.
Okay. Speaking just for me, speaking just for this episode, I'm not faulting anybody who loves it. And I will say, actually, I'm tempted now to go a little bit higher than what I'd written down, but I should probably just stick with what I'd written down.
Nice.
based on what Andrea said. So, like in my head, I'm actually thinking higher, but I'm going to stick with the original number just because, like, that's what I wrote down just after having watched it on my own. But yeah, knowing that there's these sorts of arcs and things like that makes me think, okay, maybe this is actually better than I thought. Maybe there's going to be a lot of character development. Okay, but what I wrote down was a 4.5. So very close to the mean. Very close to the mean. But now, like, if I was to redo it, I'd probably go more like 5.5 based on what Andre said. But I'll stick with 4.5 for this.
Speaking of mean, jeez.
Sorry.
This guy just, he hates cartoons. Yeah, Wee Bear.
No, I get it.
That's true. That's true. Look, Andre Kottman, what about you on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you give this first episode?
I'd give it a solid 7.5. The beginning of the second episode had me in stitches, though, and my number rose tremendously. But I'd say it's a good start to the show, and for me, a rewarding journey.
Well said.
I'm already making predictions on the yeses and nos now, based on this. So everybody, for me, I actually gave it a 7.8. It was a bit better than I expected. Look, the fact of the matter is, it made me laugh a lot, right? And if you're watching a show to laugh, if it makes you laugh and it's also not horrible, that's it. Like if it was somehow brilliant, it would have been an 8 or a 9, but it wasn't. It was very funny, or at least had many funny parts, a bunch of funny moments, and the story wasn't bad. It was fine. It was cool. The characters did have depth and dimensionality, and there was enough there for me to give it a good score. So 7.8 overall, pretty good. However, However, here's the biggie. Question
Purposes of
number
this
2
podcast.
is, for the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of BoJack Horseman. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Muhammad Noor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode of BoJack Horseman?
We've received a lot of encouragement to do so, Andre. I mean, of my own volition, so I'm taking out the influence from Andre, I'd say no. But if Andre and I were to hang out, I would happily watch it with him because I think it would make the enjoyment factor go up like 100-fold.
Well, he does that with everything, though.
That's
He
probably
makes
true.
everything better.
Thank you. Can't wait to hang with you both here in Vegas. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Cannot
that
wait.
was a no, Muhammad? That was a hurtful no? Okay.
that was hurtful. I'm so sorry.
What about you, Andre Kottman, of your own volition? If nobody forced you, would you watch the second episode?
I absolutely would watch the second episode. Just between the lampooning of LA that it did in that I recognize. And Mohammed, from your point, if you don't live in the city, like it's harder to get that humor. Definitely. And it would be hard for me if it was about like Portland. I don't know anything about Portland or something like that, you know. But yeah, and just between how kind of a dirtbag that BoJack Horseman, because I love it, flawed characters. Like it's seeing them kind of play out, like how all that stuff played out. I would absolutely watch again to see all of them.
All right. I'm surprised to hear you say that. So here's the question, though.
Well, except for the comment in the chat saying, "Watch the beginning of episode 2." It's
Yeah, he's strong-armed
so hard. Like, what happens in that? Like, I was like, oh my god, like somebody would do that. Like, I don't want to ruin it, but it was. We'll unpack that. I'll explain to you why it made me cry laughing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody, it's time for me to be the tiebreaker here. I like this power. The answer is yes, I would. I would watch the second episode. I don't know if I will. Certainly not planning on it. I probably won't, although Andre maybe convinced me to at least watch the first few minutes of an episode. Sometimes people do that, though. They say, oh, you got to watch the first few minutes. You'll be hooked. And I do, and I'm not. So I'm scared to like be that guy again. But overall, yeah, I would watch it. This show was good enough and easy enough to watch to where, you know, I would. I don't necessarily think I will, but I definitely would. It's good enough for that, in my opinion. That's it, everybody. 2 yeses and a grumpy no. Everybody knows. Everybody calls Muhammad the North Carolina curmudgeon. That's what they. That's what they call him. So that's it, everybody. Look, if you'd like us to review a show fairly and squarely, remember in the comments below, just type in WTF and the show. The month of August will be Superhero Month. So a superhero show. Wait a minute. Are there 5? Yes, there are 5 Wednesdays in Superhero Month. That means we get 5 superhero shows. That's going to be a lot of fun for us. So
like it.
Make your suggestions and let us know where we can stream it, please. That makes
do like all
very easy.
Batmans. So all the different Batman cartoons.
Batman.
and maybe the original series from the 60s.
I was about to say
Batman
something,
month.
but I don't want to give anything away in case we do a Batman. I don't want to give away my impressions and my thoughts and my feelings on Batman. So
Batman Beyond.
You read my mind. I was literally about to say that show needs some attention. Yep.
Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
is that like the fake meat Batman?
It's
a lot to unpack
Batman?
with Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like an older Batman and like a young person coming in.
I prefer Impossible Batman myself.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
We're actually gonna cook some of that up tonight, actually.
yum.
Yum.
Impossible
Sound-
Batman.
Sounds
A little bit of
leathery.
Robin chicken.
All right, everybody. So that's it. Please make sure you have liked this video. Please make sure to subscribe. If you're listening in on the podcast, just give it a 5-star rating and a review. We appreciate that. Please make sure you hit the share button. Send it out to your pals.
Press that button. Press
Yeah,
it.
we really appreciate that. Look, it's free. That's your only charge. Just
Do it now.
hit a button. Anyway,
keep the show.
That's about it. What I'm trying to say is that this podcast was a lot of fun, except when Muhammad was being so grumpy.
This podcast was much more enjoyable than the episode itself and warmed me up to the episode.
Boom. A different take. Yep.
What about you, Andre?
I liked it. This podcast and the episode were fun. Thank you for having me.
He's one of the Beach Boys now. That's a good musical reference. Go check out the Beach Boys, everybody. Underappreciated.
And have fun till the day takes T-Bird away.
Old people appreciate the Beach Boys enough, but the younger generations don't realize how really freaking good they were. Anyway, please remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Don't forget to be an organ donor, and don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right, everybody. Andre, you're going to love this. Freeze frame like your favorite character on the show.
That shitty smile and pretend that